Welcome back to the deep dive. We're taking a whole stack of research, regulations, all that complex stuff, and boiling them down to what you need to know. Today, we're tackling something critical for pretty much anyone with a salary in India, the Employees Provident Fund, the EPF. My name is Priya, and my co host is Anil.
We all know it, right? That line on your payslip, the mandatory deduction, your contribution, your employer's contribution, supposed to be your retirement nest egg. But let's be honest, actually getting money out or even just understanding the rules, it's felt like sewing buttons on a Kheer dessert.
Really dense and bureaucratic. Now, though, based on what we've been reading, the Central Board of Trustees, the CBT, they've approved what sounds like a pretty huge overhaul. A massive member-friendly makeover, they're calling it, signed off on October 13th, 2025.
I believe they're branding it as ease of living. So our job today is to unpack these new rules. What's really changed? Where's the new flexibility? And maybe more importantly, where are the new walls they've put up? Those new crucial guardrails.
That's the core tension, isn't it? Flexibility versus control.
Yes, absolutely.
A textbook case of with freedom comes responsibility.
And you really need to grasp the scale of the system they're trying to fix here. I mean, the EPFO manages retirement savings for over 940 million Indian workers. Think about that number.
It is enormous, and the total money involved, the corpus, it's a behemoth.
Over 28 lakh crore, spread across something like 32 crore individual accounts. Huge!
Okay, with that kind of scale, inertia must be a huge factor. Why did it get so bad? Why this emergency overhaul now? What exactly broke?
Well, it seems like it was failing on a couple of fronts. Administratively for sure, but also maybe behaviorally. On the admin side, the system felt almost intentionally difficult. Sources we looked at mentioned like 13 different official reasons you could withdraw money.
13, what are they?
Oh, everything. Weddings, illness, buying a house, building a house. And each one needed its own specific set of documents, its own waiting time. It was a maze.
Right, a bureaucratic nightmare.
Exactly. And the result, pretty stark. In 2023-24, over a quarter, 25% of all withdrawal requests were just flat out rejected.
Wow, mostly because of paperwork issues.
That seems to be the main culprit. Yes. The paperwork itself became the barrier for members trying to access their own money.
Okay, so that's the admin mess. What about the behavioral side you mentioned? People using it like an ATM?
Pretty much. The old rules were frankly too lenient for full withdrawals. You lost your job. Just 2 months later, you could pull out everything.
So every time someone changed jobs, potentially, poof, the retirement fund was gone.
Precisely. It just wasn't encouraging any kind of long-term discipline, and the outcome is, well, quite sobering. The data suggests half of all EPF members actually retire with less than 20,000 rupees or $228 in their accounts.
20,000 rupees? That's nothing for retirement?
Exactly. So a huge goal of this reform is to stop that money leaking out prematurely, to actually build up a meaningful pension pot for when people genuinely retire.
Okay, let's get into the changes then. Pillar 1 seems to be simplification. Getting rid of those 13 confusing categories sounds like a definite plus.
It's a major cleanup. They've basically merged everything into just 3 broad groups now. First, essential needs. Think major life events like illness, education costs, marriage expenses. Second, housing needs, buying property, building, renovations. And third, special circumstances, which covers things like natural disasters, unemployment, or even epidemics.
So, much easier to figure out where your need fits, hopefully.
That's the idea. Less bureaucratic guesswork involved just to file a claim.
And what about that rejection rate, the paperwork barrier? Removing documentation for things like, say, paying college fees? That sounds like the biggest practical improvement.
It really could be a game changer. For those essential needs withdrawals, You're moving away from needing to upload specific proofs like admission letters or invoices towards just a simple online self-declaration saying, "Yes, I need this money for this approved reason." That directly tackles why so many claims were previously rejected, such as missing papers, wrong documents, processing delays.
Makes sense. Well, the other big headache was consistency, right? Waiting periods for different things.
Yes, that was another layer of complexity. You might have needed, say, 5 years of contributing for housing withdrawal, but 7 years for marriage expenses. It was confusing.
And now?
Completely standardized. Doesn't matter which partial withdrawal category you're applying under, essential, housing, special circumstances. The eligibility requirement is now just 12 months of service, 1 year.
Okay, much simpler. 1 year you're potentially eligible.
Right. A significant streamlining.
Now let's talk about the money itself. This feels like the tricky part. They've made it easier to qualify for withdrawals, but the rules around how much you can take out and how much you must leave seems more complex.
That's the core trade-off. On one hand, for those approved reasons, you can now potentially withdraw up to 100% of what's termed your eligible balance.
What constitutes eligible balance?
Crucially, this now explicitly includes the employer's contribution, alongside your own contribution and all the accumulated interest. Before, getting access to the employer's portion for non-retirement needs was often restricted or just inconsistent across different rules.
So the pot you can dip into potentially is larger, as is the withdrawal amount. But there's always a but.
There is. Right after widening that access, they've slammed on the brakes with this new corpus floor. This is the big one.
Explain the floor. How does that work?
So while the amount you can withdraw from your eligible balance might be bigger, there's now a hard rule. At least 25% of your total EPF balance must stay put, always.
Always, even if your eligible need is, say, 80% of your total balance?
Even then, you might be eligible to withdraw 80%, but you can only take out 75% because that 25% floor is non-negotiable. It has to remain untouched, invested for the future.
That's the safety net they're building in.
It's a cornerstone, really. It guarantees that even if life bowls you multiple body lines requiring withdrawals, a basic foundation remains locked away specifically for retirement.
I can see the wisdom of protecting people from themselves, but it definitely bumps up against that feeling of ownership, especially when someone is in genuine need. And nowhere does that seem sharper than with unemployment. The old rule was super flexible, right? 2 months and you could take it all.
Exactly. And arguably far too flexible if the goal was retirement saving. That's why the new rule clamps down significantly.
How long is the wait now?
For a full EPF withdrawal after losing your job, you now have to wait a full 12 months.
12 months? That's a big jump from 2.
It is. And it's explicitly designed to stop people treating the EPF like a severance package every time they switch jobs.
But waiting a year with no income?
Wow.
That's tough. They offer anything to bridge that gap?
They did. That's the other side of the trade-off.
Yeah.
While full withdrawal is delayed, you get immediate access to 75% of your balance as soon as you leave your job.
Okay, so instant access to most of it.
Right. It falls under that special circumstances category. You get immediate liquidity for the majority, but that final 25% must stay locked away for the full year, acting as that enforced savings buffer and disincentive to completely liquidate.
And this tightening applies to the pension part too, the EPS?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially for people with shorter service, less than 10 years.
Yeah.
The waiting time to pull out their pension contribution prematurely goes from just 2 months way up to 36 months, 3 years.
3 years? Why such a long wait?
Again, it's behavioral correction based on data. Apparently, something like 75% of those members were cashing out their pension money within 4 years of leaving a job.
And the problem with that is?
It makes them permanently ineligible for any future lifetime pension benefits they might have otherwise accrued. So the government is essentially forcing them to wait to preserve their potential long-term social security.
Okay, so summing up this section, partial withdrawals for specific needs, easier, faster, simpler rules, but cashing out completely, especially after leaving a job, much harder. And you can never touch that last 25%.
That's the essence of it, trading some short-term ease for enforced long-term discipline.
Right. Let's shift gears to how they plan to make all this work smoothly. Because new rules are one thing, but implementation is everything. They're talking about EPFO 3.0, a big tech upgrade.
Yeah, the technology piece is critical. Without a major back-end overhaul, none of the simplification matters. The stated goal is ambitious. Make dealing with the EPFO as smooth as using your favorite banking app.
Which would be quite a change.
Understatement. It means things like fully automated claims processing, aiming for genuinely instant withdrawals, think UPI level speed, and also simplifying things for employers with a new, easier system for filing returns.
So, fewer errors, fewer delays caused by bad data or KYC mismatches.
That's the hope. The success of this whole reform package really hangs on whether EPFO 3.0 delivers on that promise of seamless error-free processing.
And they're also leveraging existing networks for pensioners, which sounds like a smart move.
Yes, the partnership with India Post Payments Bank, IPPB, for doorstep digital life certificates, the DLCs. This is a big deal.
Why is that?
Well, previously pensioners, often elderly and sometimes living in remote areas, had to physically go somewhere every single year to submit this life certificate to prove they were still eligible for their pension, a real hassle.
And now,
Now a postman comes to their home, uses a biometric device, generates the DLC digitally right there, and crucially, the fee for the service, about 50, is completely covered by the EPFO. It's free for the pensioner.
that genuinely sounds like ease of living for a group that really needs it.
Definitely. It helps millions of potentially vulnerable citizens navigate a necessary administrative step much more easily.
Okay, zooming out for a second, we should probably mention this isn't happening in a vacuum. The EPFO is making other big moves too, right? Like choosing new fund managers.
That's right. They just selected 4 new portfolio managers to handle their massive debt investments for the next 5 years. It underscores their role as a major financial institution.
And it all fits into this broader picture of India's social security net expanding pretty dramatically.
It does. The figures are quite striking. Social security coverage was apparently around 19% back in 2015. Now it's estimated to cover over 64% of the population. That's 94 crore people impacted by systems like the EPF.
So when we pull all these threads together, the easier access, the tougher restrictions, the tech push, the sheer scale, we land back at that core philosophical question about whose money it is.
The fundamental tension, is this your money or is it part of a state-controlled system?
I mean, it comes directly from your salary.
Legally, yes, but the state through the EPFO tells you how much must be deducted. It sets the interest rate 8.25% currently, by the way.
And that interest isn't always tax-free, we should remind people. Only up to 2.5 lakh of your own contributions per year. Above that, the interest gets taxed. Another layer of control.
Right, and the state dictates how the enormous pool of money is invested. It's not just a collection of savings accounts.
Meaning?
Meaning it provides a huge source of cheap, stable, long-term funding for the government. Money used for big infrastructure projects, public spending, things like that.
So when you're unemployed, maybe desperate for cash, and the system tells you, sorry, you can't touch that last 25% of your money.
It starts to feel less like you're the owner and more like you're a beneficiary of a scheme with rules set by someone else. If you earn it, you fund it, but you need permission to access it all, especially in tough times and face these lock-ins. It forces you to ask who is the primary beneficiary here. Is it the individual saver building a retirement nest egg, or is the fund's fundamental design geared towards providing reliable, low-cost capital for the economy?
That's the trillion rupee question here. But the overall direction seems pretty clear.
Right. So to sum it all up, the EPF overhaul is definitely a balancing act. They've tackled the old system's administrative failures, making partial withdrawals quicker, simpler, less reliant on paperwork, standardizing eligibility. That's the ease of living part.
But at the same time, they've built much higher, stronger walls around full withdrawal, especially during unemployment. That mandatory 25% floor, the year-long wait, it's about skewing the fund to be a retirement fund.
Sacrificing some individual liquidity for a nest egg in retirement. Goodbye poverty, hello pension.
Indeed.
And to our listeners, that's a wrap for today. Please share, clip, comment, and subscribe. Bye.